And this is where I always tell people, look, follow the money.
It requires effort. It requires engagement, true engagement. You got to say yes. Some way, somehow, say yes.
That's where the innovation comes. We cannot be complacent.
So let me ask you a question. So first off, let's introduce Ira Davis to the rest of the world, to all these business leaders that are listening in on Move, Crush, Count right now. What is your background? Why should they be listening to you?
Well, first of all, man, I just appreciate you having me on the show, man. I'm excited to be here with all of your amazing world-class leaders and business leaders, man. So my name is Ira Davis, the Chief Dream Diver. A little bit about me. I was former Marine Corps Drill Instructor I was in the Marine Corps for about 10 years. I was a drill instructor for about 2.5 years. And right now what I do is I really help world-class leaders who are searching for something greater. Like they know that there is more in them to accomplish more, to do innovative and creative things, that they're hiding behind the mask of success that is keeping them stuck and unfulfilled and miserable. I help those people discover their purpose, unlock and dive for their most audacious dreams to impact the world. Then I help them destroy their biggest fears and their comfort zones, man. And then I get a chance to take them up to 13,000 feet and dive out of some planes and destroy some limiting beliefs and things off of their lives so they can do the impossible instead of hiding behind what has already worked, man. And so, as we will talk through this podcast, you'll see that I don't just do this because I can talk well or I can coach well, but I've actually lived this myself. So that's a little bit about me, man.
So look, when did you get started in all this? Like,
yeah,
how do you, I know a little bit about your background, right? In terms of what you did before that you started doing the coaching, but what made you say, I can help all these people?
Yeah.
How'd you find your purpose?
Yeah. Great question. So, man, I grew up really, really what I call purpose lost, right? Not purposeless, purpose lost. Like I literally felt like when God was handing out purpose and dreams that he skipped over me. And for years, I watched my friends and family and people around me just be great at everything they touched. But when it came to my life, it seemed like everything was, average and below average and subpar. And I knew for me when high school was over that college wasn't the right route for me. I knew that I would go there and waste somebody's money, right, Scott? I was like, this is not for me. But I was in Marine Corps ROTC in high school, and I excelled at the area of leadership and inspiration. So I knew the Marine Corps was a natural fit for me to go in and do what I do well, which is to lead and inspire. But while I was in the Corps, man, I found out that I was only really 20% fulfilled and 80% miserable, right? I wasn't fulfilled by the shooting and the war and the combat and all the things that you do as a Marine, but it was the 20% where I got to lead and to inspire, to help people become greater than what they started, the transformational part of being a Marine. And what I found out is that those things they are the hallmarks of what makes a Marine, but it's not the job title itself. So I always found positions where that was the job title, right? Drill instructor, martial arts instructor. I always found roles where I could do what I do, right? But I didn't know that this was a true skill set, right? So anyway, fast forward, I'm 8 years in the Marine Corps, Scott. I've been deployed, went to Iraq, went around the world on a boat with the Navy, came back. I became a drill instructor in 2009, 10-ish. And I went down there, I started making Marines, Scott, and I started breaking people in half and building them back up and giving them their dream of being a Marine. And in about a year and a half in, I got a little too zealous and I got into trouble for training the boys a little too hard. And not only did I get in trouble, but I got kicked off of that duty altogether. They were like, no, you're going to end up killing somebody or hurting somebody. We got to let you go because you're a little bit too much of a wild man. And so for me, being a natural butthole, which is what a drill instructor is, as we train these recruits, was not my character. That was not in my DNA. It was a mask that I had to put on to do the job. And so me loving to inspire and to make sure that people achieve maximum potential, in order for me to dial up the inspiration for these recruits, I had to dial up the intensity, which ultimately got me relieved of my duties. And so at that point, I knew my career was about to start spiraling out of control. I had about 3 years left on my contract. I went back to the Fleet Marine Corps. And Scott, I had to win every award you can think of just to be competitive when promotion time came. for the next rank because I knew that this was going to be a dagger in my career. I won everything you can think of: Marine of the Quarter, Marine Corps NCO of the Quarter, martial arts instructor. I won everything. 3 years come time for promotion, I get passed for promotion. And Headquarters Marine Corps sends me a letter June 2014 and says, Sergeant Ira E. Davis, you will no longer be retained in the United States Marine Corps. You're right. Your exit date is August 2014. 3 months from the date of that letter, I found out that I had to pack my family of 4 up and my career was going to be over, right? I had no savings, no money. I had nothing, no education, zero. And so I crawled my way to therapy, man. And this is kind of how I figured out what I was supposed to do. I crawled my way to therapy, cried my eyes out, Scott. And I sat in front of this therapist like I'm talking to you today. I said, Doc, you got to help me. I'm like, I'm a grown man with a wife and 2 kids. I don't know what I was born to do, but in my heart, my whole life, I felt like I was born to do something great, but with my eyes and tangibly with my hands, I'm below average. I said, but I can't just get out of the Marine Corps where I was a success. I had a job that most people, their jaw would drop, right? When you tell somebody you're Marine and then you're a Marine Corps Drill Instructor. Like I had the job, I had the prestige, I had all of that. I was unfulfilled here, but Doc, my camouflage is being pulled. Like I can no longer hide behind the title, the success, and the shock and awe value of doing what I've done. Now I'm being forced to really figure out what I was born to do, and I'm stuck. But I know there's something been brewing in me. But I've been so comfortable, but now I'm being pushed outside of my comfort zone, not on my own free will, but it's happening. Something's happening, and I need your help. And so that doctor, man, we sat there and we talked for a few days, Scott. And Doc came back to me about 4 or 5 days later, and he said, listen, Sergeant Davis, I've listened to you talk. And every time you talk about helping people max out their potential and achieve the dream for their life, you light up like a light bulb. But when you talk about everything else, you turn into this hermit crab, like a turtle in a shell. He said, I believe in my personal and professional opinion that you will put on this earth to inspire people down to their bones to go after their dreams. He's like, I don't know what that looks like for you, whether it's writing a book or speaking, but I challenge you to go on a journey to figure out what that was. And so, Scott, the epiphany light bulbs just start going off in my head. And for the first time in my life, I'm like, I do have value, right? I do have something outside of the organization that made me feel like I had value. I have value standing on my own. And I went to the car, I'm a man of faith, and I prayed and I said, Lord, what are you saying? All these epiphany light bulbs are going off. And he says, listen, you've been looking for a tangible expression of your greatness your whole life, running fast, singing well, being the most scholarly and academic person in the room. He said, but it's the intangibles that I want to use for such a time as this. You're a transformational leader. You're a pioneer. You're a visionary. You're a phenomenal communicator, and you're creative. When you speak, people can see the end vision before we even put it on paper. Like I want to use that in the world for you to go out and inspire people and to show them what it looks like to build what nobody's built before. And there's people that I want to send you to who have world-changing, innovative, miracle-working dreams in them that the world needs and wants, but they too are hiding behind the mask of success and clout and anything else that they're hiding behind that makes the world think that they have it all together. I'm sending you on a crusade to go help people discover their purpose and unlock their dreams. And so that literally was how I found my purpose, by being pushed out of the Marine Corps and into the unknown, bro.
So that's an incredible story. All right. So you were in the Marines. Where were you living then?
I was in Oceanside, California, man, at Camp Pendleton.
All right. And where are you now?
I'm in Temecula, California. So,
Okay.
About 45 minutes down the street.
All right. So you've worked with a lot of successful people. Are you allowed to say who or the type? I know you can tell us the type of people you're working with now. Who are you working with?
Yeah, man. So I work with people anywhere from NFL Hall of Famers to Olympic athletes. And this spans the gamut of speaking for, coaching for, making films about, and just inspiring. So I worked with NFL Hall of Famers, Grammy Award winners. I worked with 6 to 8 figure entrepreneurs, executives, business leaders. And most of these people come to me and say, man, I'm tired of hiding behind paychecks, promotions, awards, and accolades. I know there's a greater plan for my life and I want to get to it, but I can't go to just anybody because just anybody, they don't understand what's brewing in me and why I'm actually miserable behind all these dollar bills that I have. because I've done what I could do, but I haven't done the thing that I was born to do. Right. And so those are some of the people I work with, pastors and colleges and churches, elite military units like the guys from Black Hawk Down, the Army Rangers. I work with a bunch of people, man. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
That's awesome. And so that was you kind of started going into my next question, which is really on paper, these people were very successful, right? You're an outsider. You're looking at them, whether it's on social media, you're seeing them, whoever, maybe you work with some of these people and you're like, wow, these people have it all together. They're happy, or how could they not be happy? How could they not be fulfilled? So what would you say is the number one reason these people are searching you out or are looking for something greater, bigger, right? It's not all money. Mm-hmm. So what is it?
Yeah, it's really purpose, right? These people are looking for purpose. And I have something I teach called the law of could versus should, right? Lots of people have been successful, like stupid successful, doing what they could do and can do. The could and can is I have a skill set that's not connected to my heart, my spirit, my purpose, or anything in me, but I can turn the wrench and people will throw dollar bills at me. And there's so many people who have made a fortune doing the can and could thing, but ultimately they hate their life. They can do the vacations, they can do all the things that they want to do, but they would not inherently do it if there wasn't a dollar bill attached to it. Now, the should and was born to do thing on the other side of that law is that this is the thing that I was born and created to do, that if I could do it for free and still take care of my family, I would rise up out of bed at 1 a.m. in the morning and do it in a bow tie, butt naked, in a pair of loafers and some high socks, right? Because
no one wants to see that, Ira.
Nobody wants to see that, right? Of course. But you would do it if somebody was knocking at your door at 1 a.m. in the morning and they need what you do in the area of your purpose. Yeah. You wouldn't think twice to open that door and serve that person. But when you're doing the could and can thing, you're like, bro, I'm off the clock. Right? And so there's a difference between the could and can and the should and was born to do. And most of these people that I find, they have fallen into the trap of, well, the world will pay me for this. And this is what I believe that is this life is about, is masking a fortune, whether I feel good about it or not. And so they get to the point where they're like, I've been bleeding internally for years, but I couldn't share that with anybody because people think that the pinnacle of life is financial success, which that's a part of what it is that we want to gain, but you ought to be gaining that from an area that makes you come alive, right? And here's the measure. And here's what I ask people when I get on a call with them. I say, man, if you died right now, you went to heaven, would God give you a high five and say, thank you, Ira, for doing this one thing with your life? That is why I put breath in your body. If the answer to that question is no, you missed the mark and you are missing it. The answer is yes, then you need to keep going harder, faster, dream bigger, right? And so the truth is that most of us will get to heaven and God will be like, man, I'm so glad you're here in heaven, but let's have a conversation. I gave you 15,666 days and all you did was stack money so you can pay Verizon and go on 3 vacations a year. I could have gave your life to somebody else. Wow. And that's the question that where everybody's heart drops. Well, but I gave to charity and anybody can give to charity. Anybody can, donate to veterans. Anybody can help the homeless. I created you for a very specific reason. You were everywhere but where I needed you to be.
That is powerful stuff, man. I get quiet on that just simply because you have a way of challenging the way people think, and you make people think about not only, whether it's what they've accomplished or what they haven't accomplished, really, in terms of why we're really here. I think that's awesome. I get the purpose thing, but I'm going to tell you, I think understanding, discovering, whatever we want to say, finding or knowing what our true purpose is, I think it's a lot easier said than done. If it was easy, everybody would kind of go in that direction. So I guess when you're starting to work with these people, Like, what are some things that you do that help these people find what that true purpose is, man? Like, what is it that, how do you unlock that?
Yeah, I love it. So I teach something here called the DreamDiver Purpose Formula, right? And I'm going to break it down for your listeners right here. It's purpose equals your capabilities plus your cause plus your solution. Very, very simple. I believe in frameworks and formats. Purpose equals your capabilities plus your cause plus your solutions. Now, before we even get into that formula, before you can even recognize and discover what your purpose is, you must first come to the end of you. One thing I can't do is help somebody who is not fed up with being stuck and unfulfilled behind success. Like, I've had some really, really great people come to me and say, can you help me get motivated to stay stuck? I'm like, sorry, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. First of all, I don't believe in motivation, right? I believe if I have to motivate you, that means you are stuck and you are out of place. That's why you need me to push you. I believe in inspiration and transformation, lighting a fire on you that will stay and stick with you, and then helping you go from A to Z. Never motivation, right? Motivation is fleeting. So the first thing is somebody has to get to the end of themselves and say, I cannot go back to what I've been doing. I am dying. I am bleeding. I need surgery today. Call the doctors, schedule me an OR. I need emergency surgery. Because here's the truth. People won't change or transform until they're in enough pain, period. If you're even 5% comfortable being where you are, I can't help you. I need people who are desperate to step into something greater than they've ever stepped into, right?
And when you say that, you're not just talking about that person that by society's definition has already hasn't accomplished much, right? You're talking about desperation can come from a lot of different people. Highly successful people are desperate for what you're talking about here, correct?
Yeah, and it shows up in the form of alcohol abuse, sexual. It shows up in the form of being a workaholic. It shows up in the form of binge watching television. It shows up in the form of attitude and character. It shows up in many different ways where people are trying to escape what's happening. And here's the truth, and I want everybody to hear me. You are more married to your vocation than you are to anything else in your life. You will spend more time at work than you do with the wife that you married and the kids that you birthed. And so if you are not working in the area of your purpose, how long will you live and bleed on the inside before you just drop dead mentally, spiritually, and maybe even physically if you are trying to escape physically, right? So I want you to process that. That is the number one area of commitment that you have in your life that will span a lifetime, is the area of your vocation, okay? So number one, you have to come to the end of yourself, and then I need to get you to recognize who you are. Like, I need you to understand that shift that you're feeling in your heart is not an accident. It's not like indigestion or heartburn. Like, that's literally God shifting you, saying it's time for you to move, crush, and get into something greater than you've ever imagined for your life. It's bigger than this. Then I take them through that purpose formula where I say, okay, what are your capabilities, your skill sets, and your talents? The things, your skill sets being the things that you learned how to do and become great, and the talents being the thing that you woke up in the morning, it was just in you, right? You can jump over buildings. Like, that's how it's just in you, right? But now when we break down those lists of capabilities, talents and skills, we have to ask ourselves, what are the things that I would do and love to do and I'm great at doing that I would show up and do even if nobody compensated me for? Those are the capabilities that we want to lean on, right? Like, I would speak, coach, pour into people, dive out of planes, make films for free if I could, right? But there's some other things that I'm pretty decent at or good at that I could probably make a living at, that I would just beat my head up against the wall if I had to do those things every day, even though I'm proficient. Those are not the things we want to lean on. Then we move into cause, meaning there's an area in your life that anytime you see this out in society, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. And you're like, man, if I can use what I'm skilled and gifted at and I love to do to create a solution for this problem that I've been through myself, that has broke my heart, that I want to come in and help eradicate or go on a crusade to fix, I would do this with my life all day, every day, right? Or some people have something that excites them so much because they experienced this in their life. For example, I know a guy that I work with. His father was such a force in his life, like such a force in his life, that anytime he sees a fatherless man in the hunt for their greatness, it breaks his heart because he knows what his father did for him. So now he's on a quest to make sure that these men have that guy in their life, right? And so it wasn't something that he was missing. It's something that he had, that he sees that other people are missing. And now he's created a world-class brand around that piece. And so it's either something that excites you to no end or breaks your heart. That's the area of your cause, right? And then the solution. How do you take your capabilities and your cause and create a world-class innovative solution that will provide miracles and transformation like the world has never seen? And you put that all together and we create what's called a purpose-driven business, or I call it a DreamDiver business, an innovative, inspirational, transformational business that pioneers a new lane where there is no competition because they can't be you, they can't see you, they can't even touch you because it's not coming from the area that's connected to their soul and to their spirit. And so that's how I take world-class leaders who are searching for something greater. And I say, yeah, I know you work at Disney, but you and I both know that there's something more innovative in you that you can go out and build. Yeah, I know you work at, the greatest gas company in the world, but there's something greater in you, right? And so what I try to get these leaders to understand is most people have a hard time in the beginning because they're trying to attach monetization in the beginning. And so they're trying to dream with monetization in the picture. The problem is you can't monetize a miracle until you know what your miracle is. You have to recognize the miracle that you were created to be first. You have to cultivate that. You have to work on that. Then we take all of our world-class leadership and our business acumen, and then we attach a monetization model to our purpose. That way we don't have to sacrifice our families, our livelihoods, our bank accounts, right? And so a lot of people think, well, if I walk away from great to get to purpose, I'm going to lose everything. No. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from where you left off at, because you're going to take all that years of education and experience, and you're going to bring that to your purpose, and you're going to build phenomenal world-class systems into your purpose that if you do it well, you won't miss a beat. You won't miss a beat, man. And so hopefully that answers your question. That's how I get world-class leaders, business professionals, and entrepreneurs who are like world-class to transition into purpose.
So all right. So let's say I know my purpose, right? All right, I have this thing, and deep down I know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've accomplished a lot, and I'm just trying to talk. I'm trying to generalize. Maybe your
I got you.
Your core customer, your core person that you're working with. Customer's a horrible word. Client you're working with to try and transform, right? What is it that stops them? So they've already accomplished a lot. If you know what it is, what stops them?
Fear of everything. It's the fear of everything. The fear of OPOs, other people's opinions, right? Mm-hmm. I'm an executive at Sony, right? What are my peers going to think if I tell them I'm walking away from the C-suite to go start this thing that looks foolish to everybody else's opinions and eyeballs, right? Other people's opinions, fear of failure. Well, I've been working like I'm the top dog. I've been here for 20 years, or let's use an entrepreneur who created their own empire. Man, I created this empire from scratch. If I walk away from this to start something new, maybe I can't be the guy that I was in my purpose, in the guy that I was in this profit-driven business. So now I'm afraid of my own shadow. I'm afraid of failure, right? The fear of just straight up the unknown. I don't know what's on the other side, but I do know what's here that's comfortable, that's giving me benefits and a paycheck and notoriety and a resume and credentials. I don't know what's over there, right? And so it's really the fear of everything that stops world-class leaders from walking away from good to get to purpose. That's what I see is and it's layered, right? It's layered on top of each other. The fear of literally sacrificing it all. Like, what if I leave here to start this and everything just goes down the drain? What about my family? What about my house? So it's the fear of everything.
So it's such a, I am a big believer in the power of limiting beliefs and empowering beliefs. And you and I first met on Clubhouse. You had a great room in there about a month or two ago, I think. And you were talking to business leaders, and people were really opening up. You have a great ability to make people feel very comfortable in opening up to you and being a little bit probably more vulnerable than they would normally. And I would say, you know, as I was sitting there listening to people talk, I'm thinking to myself, because I've accomplished some things, right? I feel like if I look back, if I look back at when I started and thought, what is it that I will accomplish? I have exceeded those things. However, big but there. So I've always went through life thinking that I have an empowering belief system. And for the most part, I think I do, but I didn't think I had many limiting beliefs. But there are plateaus.
Yeah.
And when there is a lot more to, and it's not just about money, but when there is a lot more to whatever you want to accomplish in life, I look back and I realize, man, I do probably have some limiting beliefs. And so that kind of goes into, because I think I am right there. I think I am probably a very good example of some people that come to you at times and seek your help, right? And they want to transform some things. And when I was talking to you on there, I was like, man, I was like, you helped me recognize, and that goes to my next question. I don't know if everybody recognizes their own limiting beliefs. I think it's obvious for the people, you know, you get into some of these clubhouse rooms or you talk to people and you can just hear the limiting beliefs come out of them, right? But when you talk to someone that's a very confident person who's achieved some success, sometimes those limiting beliefs, I think, are hidden. And they may not even be able to recognize, you know, some of the things that are limiting their potential. So I guess, is that a problem? I mean, is getting people to recognize that, especially successful people, that, listen, you have an issue here. You are limiting your potential because you don't think you have limiting beliefs, but look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. I mean, is that part of the process? Walk us through that.
Yeah, here's the truth. Successful people have built an invisible cage around themselves that just look a little bit more pretty. They built a luxurious invisible prison, right? Yeah. They drive up to it in something prettier. It might have some cushion on the inside, but it's still a prison. Still a prison. It's just disguised as something a little bit prettier, right? It's got pretty outsides and pretty insides. And so the truth is that when people step in front of me, and I'll say this to you just like I'll say it to anybody else, is God does not put people in front of me who he does not want me to pull something greater out of. It just does not happen. So whenever you find yourself in front of Ira Davis, just know that it's about to go down, right? If you're in front of me, that means that there's another level of audaciousness in you that needs to come out of you. Like, I have been called to those people who have exponential greatness in them to build innovative things that will change humanity. And so when I step in front of people, for humans, most of us, we don't have the ability to see beyond what we've already achieved or obtained. And so you need somebody, because the truth is that most people will see your limiting beliefs before you do, because you've built them, right? It's kind of like, you know, those of you listening and watching, you have kids. And so you don't see the growth in your kids real time, but take them to grandma's house or auntie's house. They see the growth. My goodness, what are you feeding them, Scott? Right? What do you mean? That's Johnny. What do you mean? That's same old Johnny went from when he was 7. No, Johnny's almost as tall as you. No, come here, Johnny. And Johnny's right there at eyebrow level. You're like, when did you get that tall, son? Right? And so we spend time with our limiting beliefs, right? We sleep with them. We eat with them. We dine with them. We bathe with them. And so they become a part of us. So it's hard for us to see the encampment that we've encircled or entrenched ourselves in. And so what happens when people sit in front of me, they give me the permission to share with them all of the things that they've been carrying around with them. And then I invite them to punch those things in the face and to destroy those things off of them in a very unique way that really opens them up to being able to step into the greatest levels of their life.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that, because I love what you do, and I've told you this. I've tried to think. All right, so I'm going to Ira's event here, and he's going to help me break through and really achieve the life I want. It's not just about career with you. It's about the life, right? Yeah. And so talk to us about this process that you do. I love it. I love the metaphor.
Yeah.
And there's zero doubt in my mind, if I was to complete that, by the time I don't want to give it away. By the time I complete that, I'm going to be like, holy crap, man. I feel like there's nothing I can't do. So go ahead, walk us through this, because this is awesome.
Yeah. So let me take you back and then I'll take you forward. We got time for that? Okay, cool. So I told you guys about that 3-month period when I was getting forced out of the Marine Corps. In that time period, going through depression, things of that nature, I remember sitting at my computer in my office, and it was a walk-in closet, right? That was my office, guys. 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, keep in mind, I'm getting forced out of the Marine Corps, but my local leaders, my battalion sergeant major and battalion commander, came to me and said, Ira, I know they're forcing you out, but you're the best Marine Corps non-commissioned officer we've ever led. Can you put together a corporal's course to teach and train the first level of leaders in the Marine Corps? It's a 2-month program. Can you put this together and lead it? So on one hand, you guys are forcing me out, but on the other hand, you're giving me a Heisman Trophy, right? And so here I am in the middle. So I do what I do. I said, listen, I've committed to leaving the Marine Corps better than I found it. Yes, I take the assignment. So 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm on YouTube trying to find some motivational videos, right? At the time, I didn't know motivation, personal development. I had no clue, right? So I'm on YouTube trying to find some videos to put in a PowerPoint for the class for these young Marines the next day. I type in motivation and Eric Thomas comes up, Les Brown comes up, John Maxwell comes up, and I'm like, yo, this is incredible. What is this stuff, right? Then the next video that comes on is this skydiving video. And I'm like, okay, YouTube, what kind of algorithm is this? I was like, but you know what? I'll play your game. I'll watch, whatever. So I'm sitting there watching this video and I start getting short of breath, Scott. Like I'm in the air with these guys. Like my heart is beating out of my chest. And I pull back from my desk, recognizing that I'm having a divine encounter. And I pray and I said, Lord, what are you saying? What are you showing me? He said, listen, you see skydiving, but I want you to call it dream diving. I'm like, what is that? He's like, most people will never accomplish the dream for their life because you can't hit a target you don't have and a target you can't see. He said, we got people climbing the mountain of success, but they can't see the vision on top. And so when they get tired, they sit down or they go back down the mountain. He said, we have leapers who say, you know what? I'll take a leap of faith. If this works, I'll stay. If it won't, I'll go back to my safety nets and my comfort zones. He said, then we have the jumpers, right? The people who are like, just run it, just jump. Entrepreneurship is just jump. And God is like, no, when you run and jump into something or jump off the cliff, you can't see where you're going. So you're committing dream and purpose suicide, right? I will not catch you and build something on the way down. I gave you the dream. It's your job to prepare for what I've called you to. He said, I need the dream divers, people who are willing to get their feet off of the ground, go to 13,000 feet, dive head first into the dream and vision that I've shown them and spoke into them, burn the boats and make room for the impossible to happen with the impossible God attached to you. And I was like, whoa, this is 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, whoa, that is outstanding. God, this is what you want me to do with my life, right? And keep in mind, I was out of therapy at this point and I had already gotten kind of that revelation. And then this happened. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. Then Scott, he says, by the way, you have to become a skydiver. And I was like, no, I was like, time out. I was like, God, first of all, I'm Black. We don't just go diving out of planes. First of all, we don't, right, Scott, we don't just do extreme things. First of all, number two, I'm terrified of heights to this day. Like I would not. Go ahead, Scott.
I got to tell you something. All this time I've known you, I always thought in the military, you had already learned how to do this. So you
absolutely not.
All right, keep going. I had
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am terrified of heights to this day of this recording. Terrified. I would not dive off of my desk if you couldn't pay me enough to dive off my desk. 7 years ago, guys said, I want you to dive out of planes. And I said, time out. You had me until you said that. I was going to do everything until you said that. And here's what he said to me. He said, I have too many people speaking and teaching analogies that they don't live. You won't be one of them. You will use your life as an example of what it looks like to die for dreams that are bigger than yourself, to destroy the biggest fears and the biggest comfort zones in the world so that people can see that purpose and dreams are real. And I'm calling some people to be the top 1% in the world to go, to build, to birth what most people won't ever even fathom of doing. That is what you will do in the air. You will be the example of what it looks like to die for a dream that's bigger than you. Fast forward 5 years, 6 years after that moment in my closet, I do my first tandem. Phenomenal. Fast forward to about a year and a half ago, I start my solo skydiving certification process, man, and I'm in the middle of that right now. And so what I do for world-class leaders who say, man, I'm tired of settling for success. I want something greater. I want to build something that changes the world. I invite them out to the drop zone with me, and we go up to 13,000 feet together. And we dive out of planes together as a symbol and as a commitment to destroying fear, to destroying our comfort zone, and making a commitment to diving and executing the dream and the purpose and the assignment for our life. And I'm telling you, bro, when these people touch the ground, they might be shaking going up, but when they touch the ground, literally the ground shakes underneath of them for the rest of their life, because they realize that if I can do that, there's nothing mentally, emotionally, and spiritually that I can't break through. There's nothing spiritually, mentally, or emotionally that I cannot break through. I had a lady show up. We did our first live event about a month ago. She showed up and she was afraid of her own shadow. When she touched the ground, she ran over to me and gave me the biggest hug. And she said, I left the fear on the plane. I left the fear in the air. And this book that I have been working on for 6 years that I've been afraid to send to the publisher, I am about to hit send now. I had a lady show up to the event and she said, I was not going to dive out of a plane. I told myself I wasn't going to do it, but then I saw other world-class bold leaders step up to the plate. And she said, I did not come all the way here to Southern California to watch other people become the best of who they are supposed to be for me to go back home regular. I'm going to pay for my skydive right now, right? And she rushed and she went out and got it done and she made it onto the plane with the rest of the dream divers that showed up to the event. I mean, you talking about, and we're about to publish some videos from the event. I got guys, serial entrepreneurs, run multiple gyms, run multiple businesses, and knew that there was still something in him that was greater than all of his accomplishments. He showed up to the event. He's one of my DreamDiver apprenticeship clients. He showed up to the event. He went on the skydive. He came back down. He touched the ground. This is what he did. He got down on the ground. He said, just like that. He was like, Superman is in the building, right? Because he knew that what he was about to do in his new endeavor, in his purpose, is going to be greater than all the other accomplishments that he had built a life around. And so, man, take it from me. I don't dive out of planes because I'm fearless. I dive out of planes because I choose to have less fear than what it takes to do what I was called and created to do. It is a constant reminder that limiting beliefs will sneak up on you and choke you out if you don't keep them in their place every single day. This is not a one-time thing. Limiting beliefs will come back and come back. I don't care who you are or what you have accomplished. You are still human. As long as you're human, limiting beliefs will try to sneak into your life and take you out, man. And so, yeah, I get to take world-class leaders to 13,000 feet, and we get to dive out of some planes together, and then we get to come back and do the work of purpose and dreams and creating a world-class business, man, that will touch lives.
Let me ask you, what are some of the things that you see people not doing right now, all right, that if you were them or if you could advise them and you knew they'd follow exactly what you said, without fear, that they should start doing right now?
You mean, let's put that into a little bit more context. You mean people who are stuck right now?
Yes.
Yeah. what I would advise people who are stuck right now, let's say you work in an amazing corporate job, you're a leader, you're a C-suite executive, you're an executive of some sort, or you're a world-class entrepreneur who's built a business from the ground up, but it's not connected to your purpose. My first step for you is ask yourself, if you died today, would you have maximized the life that you were given? That's my first question for you. If you died today.
Let me tell you, that's a very powerful question. I always get quiet when you ask it, because what that tells me is that answer is no. So, because, you know, it wouldn't hit me so hard if it was yes, right? You know, if you're sitting there in the audience and you're hearing that and you're asking yourself that question, and you know the answer, right? And if it's no, man,
you got some work. You got some work to do. And this is the deal. Like, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to work, get a lot of money first, and then I'll do purpose.
Yeah.
Cue Kobe Bryant. Let's put Kobe Bryant in the picture. If Kobe Bryant would have waited until some great day to begin being who he was supposed to be, he would have missed it. But because he knew who he was from a young age, he stepped into his role and began to operate in the area of his purpose, and he was gone in his 40s. And I somebody needs to hear me today. You don't have the time that you think you have. Mm-hmm. And there's no dollar amount that's going to get you ready to shift into purpose. There's no dollar amount. Like, you don't get to $5,001.99 and say, okay, I'm ready for purpose. No, you have to make a conscious decision that you only get one life to pursue the thing that you were created for. What are you going to do with it? Like, and here's the question that I would ask anybody listening. If you could do one thing in the world to help change and transform other people's lives, that would light your soul on fire, you would do for free, but you won't because you're smart enough to create a monetization model around it, what would you do that would rock the socks off of this planet? What would you do that would rock the socks off of this planet? That would make people from Timbuktu to Djibouti, Africa, to Europe, all the way to Alaska, that would make tears come out of their eyes every time they touch your product or service. I don't care what industry you're in, whether it's tech, education, philanthropy, business, sports, music, film, TV. What would you do that would make tears come out of people's eyes when they experience what you're about to birth? That is my number one driving metric. I want people. Our brand here at TDC, at the DreamDiver Company, we have 3 metrics that we want people to feel every time they hear us, see us, touch anything we create. It's inspiration, transformation, and exhilaration. I don't care if you're reading something. I want you to get short of breath like you're in the air with me. If you're listening to this right now, I want your heart to be beating out of your chest. I want you to feel the fact that you're in a plane with me every time I open my mouth. Like, what will you do with your life? What could you do with your life if you saw yourself as a world-class business leader or entrepreneur that's going to create something that explodes the mind of people on this planet in a good and positive and transformational way? And once you figure out what that is, I challenge you to start seeing yourself as who you were created to be, and stop seeing yourself as who you created yourself to be. There's a difference.
Well, if you think about it, you know, I like the way you're tying this in too. You're saying basically you don't have to give up. What you're saying is you can tie your purpose into some type of financial, you know, I don't want to say you're doing it for the financial, but right. It can be married right there, right?
Oh, I mean, it has to be. It has to be. Listen to what I'm saying. It has to be, because you can only help as many people as you can afford to help, right? And so you have a responsibility to grow it so it can touch the masses. You have a responsibility. That doesn't mean you start from there. That means you figure out what it is that you're supposed to do, and then you build in a model that will help you scale it. That's how we do it. It's purpose first, and then we build in a solution, and then we take it to market.
Reminds me of, you know, I live in Louisville, so we're the home of Muhammad Ali right here. So,
yeah,
you know, so it reminds me when he passed and his funeral, and all these former boxers and celebrities all came into Louisville, and George Foreman said something, because George became a preacher, wanted to help people, right? but didn't have a huge audience. Nowhere close to what he has today, right? I mean, everyone knows who George Foreman is. Everyone loves him. Everyone pays attention when he talks. I mean, he can sell grills. He can do whatever he wants, right?
Right. Right.
But Ali gave him advice, and this is long after he had quit boxing. He says, you've got to become champion of the world. And the reason you have to become champion of the world is to get your audience. So Muhammad was basically, so it kind of goes into what you're saying. It has to be merged because you can only afford to help
so many people,
right?
Yeah,
which is
absolutely
basically what George did as well. I think that's outstanding. And let's talk a little bit real quick, and I want to respect your time. Let's talk real quick about some of the transformations that you've seen. And they probably go from pretty drastic life changes to just shifts. But that little shift just is so much more enjoyable. Listen, and I love how you bring up people think money first. And most people think money first because of the joy, the power, the excitement they think it will bring, right? But it's not that. Let's talk a little bit about these transformations, because I'd love to hear just the subtle one, the real successful guy, the guy that got all this money, that made that little shift, and then I was all of a sudden, wow, this is a much more fulfilling life, versus someone that maybe had a drastic transformation that you've seen.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I was telling you about the serial entrepreneur before, won multiple gyms, great guy. And when he came to me, he heard me on a podcast of another client of mine, and he was like, "Bro, I'm good financially. I'm set. I can do whatever I want to do." He said, "Man, but when I heard you on the podcast, something about me said there's a shift happening and there's another level." He said, "But I'm afraid, man, that my business partner will think that I'm, cheating on the business partnership by pursuing this next level in me." I said, "No, what your business partner doesn't understand is when you develop this part of you that's going to be world-class, it's going to only promote what you guys have built together on the other side. Because when they find you and see you, guess what? They're going to see your resume, which means ultimately more eyeballs will get on the thing that you two have built together." So I said, "Tell your business partner it's okay. I got him covered." Right. And so what we figured out is that literally he grew up without his father, and that created a huge gaping gap. Right. He became a yes man. He became a people pleaser. Right. And then eventually in his 20s, he made a decision to write a letter to his father, forgiving him for not being there. And so what we realized is that his purpose was to help business professional men who are struggling from the hurt of the father who was never there, and who have come up against a glass ceiling in their greatness, who want to burst through that glass ceiling to become greater than what they've already accomplished, right? Just like he has. And so we decided we were going to create a business and a book called Letter to My Father, where he would teach the Lead to Greatness method, which will help professional men who are at that glass ceiling threshold because they're still struggling with a father, right, who was never there, man. And so we figured out, man, that we created an event, a retreat, a mastermind for him. We're working on getting his book published. We're working on a bunch of things that has brewed directly out of his purpose, out of his heart, that he will be able to literally go out and pour into these men all over the world in all spheres of life and all levels of business and entrepreneurship, and pour directly into their souls, right? And so, man, when he came to the event and he dove out of that plane, man, I saw a switch was flipped in his life that helped him realize that he was not what he built, but he was about to step into another level of what was in him. And now he wakes up every day excited to be able to reach and touch men all over the country with what he's about to do, man. And so that's one story. Another guy, man, he was a world-class fitness trainer. He was on some reality TV shows that's on Netflix. He trained people like Drew Brees, Darren Sproles, LaDainian Tomlinson from the NFL. And he came to me. He was already what I call a PVW, a pioneer, visionary, world changer, operating in his purpose. And he came to me and he said, "Listen, I want to take my business from X amount of millions to X amount of millions, and my impact from X amount of people to X amount of people." And I came in and I looked him in his eyes. I said, "Bro, I've been watching you from a distance for a while. You're operating at a high capacity, but here's one subtle shift we need to make. We need to give them your heart." We need to give them your heart. You've given them your technique. Let's give them your heart. And so we came in, we created a docu-series. We revamped his community. We gave them a unique language and nickname. We created a new branding around what he was doing. And he went in 2 to 5 years, he exponentially grew to a whole nother level. He ended up, I helped him shape his book that's now in Barnes and Nobles. He took that off to a major publishing house. And so it was the subtle shift and perspective that he needed to go from phenomenal to world class. And now he's taking it above. He's got a podcast that's killing it right now. Talking to guests from all over the place, man. And you're talking about a guy who is an Under Armour lead fitness expert, travels the world to speak. And then all the way down to a young lady who is a leader at her job. She's, a leader there, but she has these concepts that's been brewing in her, but she's been afraid to disconnect. And so when I brought her out and we dove out of a plane together, literally she said, there's nothing that I can't do. And now, and this is how I teach it, not everybody can completely disconnect from what they built or where they work to build what's next. I teach the political correct way is a subtle transition. Stay where you are, build what's next. And when the time is right, we move. Some people, like I was forced to, we have to completely disconnect because while we're building the dream, God is building us. And so we can't give God our nights and weekends. He needs all day, every day to turn us into who we're about to be. Because some of you listening, you're not just the little guy. You're the general that God wants to raise up and do something crazy. And so sometimes you're going to have to pull away from what works. And yes, you might have to, what some people call sacrifice a little bit in the interim. Like for me, from the Marine Corps to the guy you see today, it was a process of incremental dip, of isolation, where God had to groom me for what was next and get me ready. And so God said it to me like this, Scott, and I'm done. He said, if you would have just given me your nights and weekends, it would have taken me 10x the amount of time to groom you into the general that I made you into. But because you gave me 8 hours a day, I was able to grow you faster, even though you weren't as comfortable as you would have liked to have been, even though you didn't have the things that you wanted to do and wanted to do for your family. But because you gave me a 100% yes, and you stepped away and disconnected from easy to get to what I showed you, because you burned the boats. Now, after this investment period of you investing your life into your destiny, now I'm about to catapult you to the moon because you made an investment of time and energy to grow, right? And so every journey is not for everybody. And so when I take on clients, like some of the people you've heard, I never tell people to completely disconnect from what's working. That is a spiritual, emotional, and man or woman maturity decision based on your life and your lifestyle, right? And so some of my clients have completely disconnected to go build what's next because that's what they felt they were called to do. And some of them are like, I'm going to stay right here and I'm going to build this and let's grow this. And then we're going to transition. And so I tell people all the time, just because it's purpose doesn't mean you have to be homeless. Just because it's purpose don't mean you have to be homeless.
And
I don't believe in it.
I think so many people confuse the two. They sit there and think if you pursue something that is so meaningful, you like to say, comes from your heart. I think they feel like they have to give up so much from a financial thing. So I agree with your thought processes there 100% on that. And they go together.
They go together. You just have to be wise and smart. You have to be wise and smart. They go together. You can build the world's greatest whatever, and you don't have to give it away for free, right? Because people will spend money on God knows what. They ought to be spending money on your transformational experience, product, or service first, because that's ultimately going to get them infinite results in their life.
Yeah. Man, this has been an outstanding hour. I could sit here and listen to you all day, man. I really could. I knew it. You're right. You get into Clubhouse and there are any of these apps, right? Or you get introduced in there are some people you kind of connect with quick, right? And I felt like listening to you that was the way it was for me, man. I just really enjoy speaking and learning from you. And I appreciate you sharing all your experience and your knowledge with us, man. It's powerful.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. And I just want to say this for all of you move, crush, count people out there, man, who listen to Scott. I just want you to know right now, man, that your fearless leader on this podcast is trying to take you to levels that you can't even imagine. And so I want you right now, if you're not following him on every platform, you're wrong, because there's something in him that you need. That's why you listen to this show, watch this show. So whatever he's brewing, I need you to be right there and sipping on from that tap, because he's feeding you something that's going to help you grow exponentially, man. And so all of you guys, every platform, follow Scott.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. So talk to us real quick and then we'll go. What's the easiest way for our audience to connect with you and to, maybe even do your next skydiving event and dive out of these planes towards their goals?
Yeah. Also on every platform is at dreamdiver.co, not .com, .co. You find us there. You'll find my personal page, which is at the Chief Dream Diver on all platforms. Also, we have the podcast, the Dream Divers podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to shows. It's on YouTube as well. But listen, I want you guys to get connected. We're about to launch a webinar, a masterclass. It's called The 3 Keys to Stop Settling for Success so you can start living the life that you were created for without losing everything that matters. Without losing everything that matters, right? And we're going to discuss how to move from being successful and miserable to being innovative and fulfilled. So if that's something that interests you, I want you to go to my website, www.dreamdiver.co. Sign up for that email list there. You're going to get access to my free power coaching call that I do every Monday morning for world changers. It's called Miracle Mondays, where I get to pour into you, and then you'll get information when that webinar goes live, man. So that's how you connect with us.
That's awesome. We appreciate it. Ira Davis, everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, buddy.